Tony, apparently, well, most of the AFC West kind of dodged the bullet because some teams in the AFC West already have great quarterbacks, and we wouldn't be that worried about it. But the Broncos dodged the bullet, I will say. The Raiders were trying their hardest to trade up in last year's draft to get CJ Stroud. And can you imagine? Because the Raiders defense, I have to admit at this point. Do I have to admit it?
Yeah, you do. They're playing good ball.
I can't get it out of my fucking...
Yeah.
Anyways, what he said. You pair that with someone that's competent, because I feel like they're just wasting Devontae Adams right now. Like, Devontae Adams is just in an offense that cannot throw the ball because they don't have a quarterback that can efficiently throw the ball play after play after play. There's so many plays, like a 3rd and 6 call late in the game. I know they ended up winning the game anyways, where it's like 25 quarterbacks in the league have their coaches trust to throw on 3rd and 6 and try and pick up the first down. They just ran the ball to try and kill more clock to give their defense more of an advantage. But CJ Stroud in that position with Devontae Adams and how Jacoby Myers is playing this year, he's having a hell of a season so far. Imagine that little trio. I mean, would you be a lot more scared of the Raiders going forward, especially like looking at the years coming up? If they had CJ Stroud, I mean, you obviously would be more worried about him, but did we dodge a bullet there by CJ Stroud going to Houston instead of Vegas?
So here's my argument for this. I would be a little more concerned had they traded up and got CJ Stroud. I do think that we have to give a little bit of credit for how Bobby Slowick, who they brought from San Francisco, D'Amico Ryans brought him in, made him the offensive coordinator. I think he's done a tremendous job with him. Now he has to go out on the field and execute, but are we certain that Josh McDaniels would get the same kind of play out of Stroud? So that's where I would not necessarily be as worried as if it was like, oh no, they hired somebody, like if the Raiders didn't have McDaniels and they hired somebody from the Shanahan tree or the McVay tree, like they brought in a Kevin O'Connell who could maybe work a little bit better with offense. Because one of the favorite things that I've seen was maybe it's a meme or an article or something that I saw come up last week, was not only Belichick needs to prove that he can win without Tom Brady, but Josh McDaniels needs to start proving that he can win without Tom Brady too. So like, we think that CJ Stroud just goes from playing great ball with Texans, he'd be the same quarterback with the Raiders. It's not a 1-and-1 replacement, so yes, I'd be a little bit more concerned, but I don't think I would be crazy concerned until I saw evidence of good offensive foundation, which the best they looked was with Brian Hoyer
in that last game against New England. And it wasn't like they were an elite offense. They weren't even an elite offense.
A couple of games last year with Derek Carr where they looked like a good offense, but it was mainly Josh Jacobs breaking 85 tackles and playing like the best running back in football.
I'm with you, and it's crazy the flip in the Raiders fan base's opinions. And it's the Raiders fans. Of course they're going to be like this. They're just going to ride the Raiders up and, talk about them winning the Super Bowl when they're up and then ride the Raiders down. That's why it's always crazy to me that the Raiders and Cowboys fans beef so much, because they're so similar. It's like they're, and I said it in another video, they're stupid. Like, it's not a bad thing to be a stupid fan that just blatantly will hate on the team to the extreme when they're losing and just love the team to the over extreme when they're winning. But the flip is crazy, because when they were 0-3, they were talking about Caleb Williams to the Raiders. Like, they're banging the desk. Let's tank for Caleb. Let's do this. Let's go get him. And it's like, I felt the same that you're saying about CJ Stroud here. There is no promise that if Caleb Williams comes to Vegas and teams up with Josh McDaniels, and who knows what other talent that is on that team is with the team by the day we get to that point that Caleb Williams suits up for Vegas in that first game, it might not go as pretty as you guys think. I'm just saying, it might not be a perfect fit. But I do think that CJ Stroud would be an upgrade from the situation that they have right now, no matter what. I will say that. I'll give them that kind of credit.
Yeah, 1,000%. And I do think that like the offense and the team would be better, and McDaniels would be better if he had somebody who seems to be making as good of decisions as CJ Stroud is. Like, he's not really putting the ball in harm's way too much. When you watch the games, I keep thinking that there's going to be a few more like crazy, panicked, frenetic, pressures coming. I got to do this. But he seems to make the right decision. Like, oh, this isn't good. I got to dirt this. Oh, I got to throw this out. Oh, I have a chance to use my athleticism. I'm going to use it here. He's not overwhelmed by the moment. And so I think that would definitely help to have somebody like Devontae Adams with him and have Josh Jacobs in the backfield. But like, when you watch the Texans, like, they haven't really been able to get the run game going, but they've also had a bunch of offensive line injuries there. Like, it's just, to me, it's not a 1-for-1 thing. Like, sometimes players play better in a situation because perhaps DeMeco Ryans is establishing a really good, healthy culture. Like, there was a story that came up like 2 weeks ago where Stroud is having the whole team over for weekly dinners. The whole team just coming into my house. Here we go. Eat whatever you want. Stay as long as you want type of a situation, allowing for bonding situations. Do we hear about that kind of stuff with the Raiders? I'm sure those things go on, but it's not like, Jimmy G's like opening up the doors to his palace and being like, hey, we really need to get on the same page here. And, bring your family, bring a side if you want, bring some booze, whatever. Like, let's all just chill on this Friday night before a game.
What's crazy is Jimmy G is the exact opposite. He has been frantic this season and just throwing balls up in harm's way and put his guys in harm's way. And he has been a complete opposite flip when we talk about 1-for-1, him coming in and stepping into Derek Carr's shoes after being like a steady starter for the San Francisco 49ers when healthy for years and years and years. And that system comes to Vegas, and now he leads the league in interceptions, and he's like missed like half of the quarters that he had open to play. So if he's playing every single game, he's not just leading the league in interceptions. He probably has a wide lead in the league for interceptions thrown. But yeah, Jimmy G's almost the exact opposite. And even talking about the leadership thing, news has come out that CJ Stroud is like in regular communication with Brady. He's even met with him for like lunch and stuff to ask about advice on how to be the best teammate and be the best leader. Like, that's the kind of stuff that's next level that a rookie that wants to learn and improve and have a long, sustainable career is going to do. Jimmy G and Brady, when they were on the same team, beefed. They didn't like each other.
I think Brady felt more annoyed, and
Bill kind of like stoked that fire a little bit by even just picking Jimmy G in the first place.
Yeah, you take a quarterback in the second round when Brady's looking around and going like, hey, I could use a wide receiver. Like, we haven't had anybody here since Randy Moss. Like, why don't we go out and, Chris Hogan's a nice player, but he's also a professional lacrosse player too. Like, that's what kind of NFL receiver he was. So it would have been nice to take a shot at that rather than trying to replace me, who is the greatest quarterback of all time. Like, you're trying to see the end of my career. And Brady was like, no, the end of my career is way down the road. Multiple more Super Bowls, like 4 more Super Bowls away is when my career will be ended. So I do think that Stroud would still have great access because Brady's a part owner of the Raiders, and McDaniels, I think, has a good relationship with Brady, right? Like, I don't think there's any beef there. Like, he'd still have access to him. But a lot of these guys, like, one of the things that Brady's doing so greatly is paying it forward. You hear about him being a mentor and somebody that works with Shedeur Sanders at Colorado, like working, giving advice. That's great that he just takes time, picks up the phone and says, hey, these are the things you need to work on. All of those things don't really matter because Zach Wilson had access to Aaron Rodgers, an all-time great QB. And it's the same translation isn't happening. You have to be able to get out there on the field, and you got to be able to do the 2-step or whatever it is. Like, you got to get out there and be able to dance, sing, whatever you want to say.
That's why I've always loved Brady, man. And I'm a jersey collector. I have Patriots, Bucks, Brady jerseys in my closet in the other room right over there. But the man just loves the game on the next level. And even removed from the game, I could still see it. Like, he still wants to be a part of it. He still wants to see football grow, and he's going to do stuff in his post-football career that's going to help with that. And I'm excited to see what he does long-term as far as that goes. But yeah, so it's interesting. The Raiders quarterback situation could be completely different. I think they still might have had Jimmy G if they traded for CJ Stroud in the situation. So CJ probably would have been the backup until Jimmy got hurt and then taken over, and everything will be completely different. But while I got you here, Tony, to close this video out, who do you think is the better option? As a Chargers fan, be honest. Be honest with the Raiders fans here that are tuned in. Be honest with the non-Raiders fans here that are tuned in. Who's a better option from what you've seen? AOC, Aiden O'Connell, or Brian Hoyer going forward for the Raiders? I think Jimmy, his injury news ended up being like better than they expected, so he probably will be back this year, but I don't think he'll be back this week or probably in the next couple of weeks.
So I think it's sort of based on like, what's the job security? Do I need to keep winning these games? Because if I need to keep winning these games, I'm going with Brian Hoyer. If I know that I have that I'm not going to be fired no matter what, I'm putting Aiden O'Connell out there. Like, I want to see, like, I did see some nice things in the Chargers game. And as the season plays out, we are seeing that the Chargers, at least their pass rush, is a lot better than people thought. So that was a tough game for him to make his debut in. You got Khalil Mack and Tui Pelotu and Morgan Fox. Like, these guys, even Sebastian Joseph Day, like, they're bringing a lot of pressure on the quarterback. I would like to see him, if I have assurities from the owner saying, yeah, let's put Aiden out there for this next game and see what we got. Like, do we have a guy that we can build off of? Do we have a guy that showed promise in the preseason? Because I think that he can play in this league. But you can't know unless you put him out there. But if you put him out there, are you going to lose your job? Because I think Brian Hoyer can keep your job. I think Brian Hoyer could get the Raiders to an 8-win season. I think Jimmy G can get the Raiders to an 8-win season with that defense.
Yeah, and then they can kind of just look back on it and go, yeah, we only won 8 games, or yeah, we won 9 games, but look at what we had at quarterback. You know what I mean? We still made it work with Brian Hoyer and Jimmy G. Yeah, I'm with you, though. I think that Aiden O'Connell is their best chance long-term, and I think that first game, a lot of it was just his timer isn't developed yet. Like, you can't expect a rookie to just step onto the field at quarterback and know the game speed. Have that. I mean, some guys do have that natural timer in their clock, and it's mostly guys that played at high-level schools that already kind of played against NFL-level pass rushers in the past. But he just it felt like he was holding on to the ball just a second too long in that game where they suffered 6 sacks to one freaking player, and he's going to get better with that over time. And the reason that he's going to get even better and better and better with that is because of who he has out wide. 17 is your freaking best friend with helping at that, because if you're having issues, just throw it to him out of his break. He's going to be freaking open. I mean, if they want to get the most out of Devontae Adams and what he does down the field, it would be smart to put Aiden O'Connell in there. And if they start to get that working, I hate to talk good about the Raiders, it's going to help the run game a ton.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know the intricacies of McDaniel's scheme, but when I hear people talk about it, they talk about it being complex and being tough to understand and get. And I think that was some of the frustration that happened with Derek Carr last year. It was sort of like McDaniel's was saying, like, hey, I'm giving you the answers, and this is what you should be able to have, like a makeable NFL throw on every play, because of the way that I design things. Like, there should be an answer to every test every time you say hike. So, like, I do think that there is a little bit of, he needs to get out there and see if he can learn that. But if you don't feel like you have job security unless you win 8 or 9 games, like, it would be better for the Raiders to win 5 games this year than to win 10 games this year with Hoyer and Garoppolo. If Aiden O'Connell is proving that he can play in this league. Like, there's a difference in those two things, because if you go into next year and you got into the playoffs with Jimmy G, you're still looking for that quarterback. And now you're going to have to trade even more capital to try and get into a spot where you maybe could get like a more proven prospect. Like, everybody, we do this every year with the quarterback classes. This is the greatest quarterback class we've ever seen. There's 4 or 5 can't miss prospects at the QB position. That's not the case. Almost like 100% sure that's not the case.
Yeah, and that I also think that they kind of like try to do things a couple years ahead. Like that Devontae Adams trade was super aggressive, and there's probably he just moved to Vegas, trying to excite the fan base. He's grew up a Raiders fan, he's public about that as well. There probably is some financial backing. There's some stuff that acquiring Devontae Adams does for the organization that is not just on the field, but the team needed those picks to draft players that are going to be on the team for years and years to come, because now you're hitting a point where Tay wants to win now. Tay's value trade-wise is hitting a peak where it's going to start to dip with his age or if he has any injuries. They made that move way too early, in my opinion. They should have had things established first. Then you go and acquire a superstar wide receiver 1 to throw in there with the guy that you had that you knew was going to be the guy. And I think that if you were going to trade for Devontae Adams, it would have made more sense to keep Derek Carr in town and then draft Aiden O'Connell or whoever the hell you want to be the future.
For 1,000%, you also get to keep somebody who's the heart of the organization, like somebody who went to the mic and would wear it on his, on the chin. Just say,
and like, hey, if he makes it through one more contract with them, Tony, all that talk about retiring a Raider and all that, he may have considered it a lot more.
He may have considered what?
All that talk, you wanted to retire a Raider, never play for another team, all that stuff. If he gets through one more contract with them, he may have considered that retirement move and just being the ultimate Raider a little bit more, and not gone to another team. And now, we're going to see a whole different stint from Derek Carr, basically, that we're going to remember as the last that we saw Derek Carr.
Yeah, and it's off to a rocky start.
That's what I'm saying too. Yeah, but that's a whole different topic. We'll talk about that another day. Plenty of time to hate on Derek Carr, trust me, or not hate on him, but talk about the performances in New Orleans. A little bit of a letdown that offense has been this year. But yeah, Tony, just want to talk about it with you. See your thoughts on this news that CJ Stroud was probably going to be a Raider if the moves weren't made the way they went down, and he was close to becoming a Las Vegas Raider. I want to see what the audience think as well. So please comment below how you think the Raiders look with CJ Stroud versus the quarterbacks they have. They're 500 with the quarterbacks they have. So let us know what you think in the comments. We'll see you guys on the next upload. Oh, yeah. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications. We're going to be live Thursday for the Pick'em show. Anything else, Tony?
No, good. We got Derek Carr on Thursday Night Football.
Oh, yay. Can't wait for that. Have fun watching that one, Raiders fans.